This is a two-part lesson. So some of you obviously did the David Austin Rose a few weeks ago. So today we're going to be, this is sort of actually a live lesson. So rather than video, but I'm actually doing it in actual time. So I'm going to show you how to make the sweet peas, and we're going to be doing the sweet pea centers. And then generally they take a little bit of time to dry, so obviously in your instructions, like air dry and clay about 10 minutes, sugar ones about 30 minutes. If you do have a food dehydrator, all right, that would be where it would be good to pop those in the food dehydrator, your centers, just to sort of speed up the drying. But if you don't, you just leave them about, 20, 30 minutes, they will be fine. And while they're drying, we're going to move on to the leaves. Then we're going to come back and we're then going to do the sort of second stage bud, and then the flowers, all right? And then that will be the lesson today. And then Thursday, we're going to be putting on the calyx. We'll make the tendrils, obviously taping, coloring, finishing off, all right? So anyway, so this is the sweet pea. So we're gonna put the overhead camera on, and I'll just be in the bottom of the right-hand part of the screen. And so because most of what I'm going to be showing you is going to be overhead. So these are sweet peas. So obviously these are the sweet peas we're going to make. And traditionally with sweet peas, this would be the, up until sort of now, the way I would make them. This is an FMM cutter, sweet pea cutter set. And they also, Wilton have one which basically is exactly the same size, but this is an FMM one. So in traditional sweet pea making, this is what you would use for the flowers, and then this would be what we would use for the little first stage bud. When we're going to make like the little rose petal shape, we'll be using this little rose petal shape to make this. This will be used for the bud. Okay, so that is traditional sweet pea making. And if you were going that route, you of course could use your ultimate petal veiner. And with your ultimate petal veiner, of course, you could use this and just cut these out. But the nice thing about your ultimate petal veiner, you could actually cut out 5 of these, or 5 of the ones that looks like a pair of lungs, and you could do 5 at a time, just a little bit like you would roses. But because with the Flower Pro Club, I'm trying to show you sort of different things you can do with your products. That's why we're using the peony. All right, so we're going to be using the peony today. Oh, sorry, the poppy. So we're going to use the poppy for the petals. Now, as you can see, also the size of these sweet peas are quite a bit larger. All right, so this is about 25-30% bigger. This is the one with the cutter in my right hand, and you can see that it's a lot larger. The one that we're going to make is a little bit bigger. Now, sweet peas come in many sizes, all right? So sweet peas also come in many color combinations as well. Just to pop this here. So just showing you. So in this book here, this book is a Japanese book, that magazine, and sort of shows obviously sweet peas here in very much pastel. But also sweet peas come in beautiful like jewel tone colors. So you can see there's even sort of like almost like a nice green one. I've done this before on wedding cakes, where you make it in a pale green and then you use a darker green, like a limey green around the side. So you have many, many color combinations and things. And then sweet peas, we're going to be making what is called a self-colored sweet pea. That means that the components will all be made in the same color. All right, so in my case, I've made the center, the first stage petals, the outer petals, all in pale pink. All right, but you also have, so that is what we call self-colored. And then you also have what are called bicolored, which means that you have, this is a bicolored sweet pea, all right, which is a little bit easier to see, for example, on this yellow one here. But you can see on this yellow one, so basically your inside petals, which are going to be the ones we're going to make that look like a pair of like this shaped one, all right? So those ones in this case were actually made in like an orange color. And then your outer petals, which would be like this one here, would be made in a almost like an orangey color, you see? So you could use, for example, like shown in the book here, you could use like a lavender and then a darker purple. Or the other thing you can actually do is you could start off with, say, a darker pink for the center and the first stage petals. Then just like we did on the David Austin Rose, you add white paste to that to make your outer petals lighter, okay? And so that's sort of what we call bicolored. And then on flowers like pansies, all right, we also sometimes have tricolored flowers. So tricolored means 3 colors. So you have self, bi, which is 2, and tri, which is 3. And yes, Scott? Yeah. So and then so on when you have the colors, and then on flowers like pansies, for example, pansies have sometimes you'll have like the two top petals of a pansy could be yellow, and then your two side petals would be white, and then the bottom petal could be purple. So they have like three different colors, and that is called tri. All right. So you have self-colored, where everything is the same color. All right, you have bicolored, which means you've got two different colors. Like, let's say a Cymbidium orchid, you could have the throat in cream, and then the back petal sepals in pale green. That would be bicolored. And then is there a flower like a pansy, which typically those would be one of the flowers that have a lot of time three different colors. That would be what we call tricolored. Now, sweet pea is related to the, obviously sweet pea is part of the pea family. And that also includes, for example, like the wisteria. So a few weeks ago when we started lockdown, I did, and if you look back into, obviously on the Flower Pro group, all right, I actually showed how to, I give the handout to this, but if you go to my website, to nicholaslodge.com, you can download the PDF of the wisteria. And the wisteria is made with just two sizes of rose petals, but this is the wisteria, all right, and so that is made in very much the same way. It's like just a little miniature version of the sweet pea. So the wisteria family, and then also the lupin family. Now this is Texas bluebonnet, and so in Texas this is a wildflower. So this time of year, actually May, early June time in Texas, you just have fields of blue, and those are the Texas bluebonnet. And this is basically a wild lupin. All right, so lupin is a popular flower in the UK, and it has this cone shape which you snip with scissors. And then you have obviously you've got the little pea flowers. So these are very similar to the way we're going to make them, and these just have one single petal on, like the sweet pea, and the two little dots, and then obviously there's lovely purple color. So that's the Texas bluebonnet. Okay, so there's a lot of flowers that are related to the pea family. And so anyway, so that's a little bit on introduction. Okay, so just see if there's any. Do you have comments up there, Scott? There we go. Need to bring the comments. There we go. Comments on. There we go. All right. So anyways, you have your downloadable instructions. So this is the download for the sweet pea. All right, and so this has got the instructions for making the sweet pea. And so we're going to start off by taking 1/3 length 26 gauge green or white wires. Okay, so you're just going to cut your two wires into thirds, and you'll use 5 of those. Now remember, it doesn't matter whether you use white or green wire here. For all of the 3 wires, it doesn't have said, it's not specific. In some of the projects and in some of the videos, it will be very specific about what sort of what color wire you use, but here it doesn't matter. So then you're going to take 5 wires. I'm showing you 2 of these, and then using half width light green floral tape, wrap tape around the end of the wire 5 times, then hook and wrap around 5 more times, and continue down approximately 2/3 the way down the wire. All right, so you're going to take your half width light green floral tape. Now remember, you're going to stretch this. All right, so just remember, stretch it to make it a little sticky. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to take your floral tape, and you're going to hold the end of the wire like this, and you're going to go round to get started, and you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now this is sort of borderline thickness, because I don't have long nails, and I can just bend this with my fingers. All right, and then you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then you're going to just tape down about 2/3 of the way down, break off your tape here like this. All right, so alternatively you can do this with a pair of pliers, and if you have longish nails, I would suggest using the pliers. So you're going to go around, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then we're going to take your pliers, going to bend this over. It's got my comments. So if you do have any comments, everybody, just pop them up. Yeah, nope, I think everybody's just watching, okay? But you can use your pliers 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you're going to take down. And I realize some of you are just watching, and then you're going to do this later on. So if you have any drama or any questions, along the way, just sort of obviously let me know. So anyway, so you're going to make 5 of those. All right. So that will be that's going to be your first stage. So as I said, so if those of you that are actually working, if you want to make those, and then I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, and then I'll go on to show you the next stage, because then we're going to actually work on the next stage of the petals. So we're going to be making then the center part of the sweet pea. All right, so that will be the next step. So 5 times hook times 5, then come down about 2/3 of the way. Now, you know, as I said, and I've said several times in the Q&As and things, you know, remember also next week, so just while we're talking, we're going to talk a little bit about next week. So next week we do have, as I said, on Monday, Sydney Galpin, who from Simi Cakes, who is an extraordinary artist in sugar specifically, in isomalt work, will be joining us. Sydney is actually coming up this weekend to Atlanta we're going to be doing some filming for Cake Flicks, and also some joint collaborations we're working on as well. And so Sydney, before she goes back to Florida on Monday, is going to do a live for us on using Flower Pro and also the NL collection by Katy Sue Design. So things like my pine cones and antlers, and just sort of showing you the basics of using isomalt. And this is a really nice alternative to using sugar, air drying clay. And Sydney's going to show you basically the basics of using isomalt in the Flower Pro line. All right. Now remember, that's going to be at 11 a.m. or will be 4 p.m. in the UK on Monday. That will be on the schedule, but it's just an earlier time because Sydney obviously has a 8-hour drive back to Florida. And then next Thursday is going to be a Q&A, all right? So about once a month we do a Q&A. So when we post that, so once we finish Sydney's on Monday, I'll do the little introduction. Then we'll have a setup as a comment. So then if you have questions like we did before, some of you were part of that, just put them in the comments. And then, because when we start the Q&A a week on Thursday, I like to be able to sort of start off with some of the questions we've already had, okay? And so just start thinking about questions for the Q&A and then just write them down. And then obviously once I've posted that, you'll be able to obviously put those in the comments, and then be able to, as I said, I'll be able to discuss those. Because it's nice to have the comments in advance, because it helps me to be able to prepare things if it's specific to a color, or like last time we had questions about brushes and cleaning brushes and things, so I can sort of set things up, and it makes it a little bit easier to do. Okay? And Kathy's watching. Yep, so Sydney's class will be interesting. Obviously, Sydney does some beautiful work, and she was meant to be teaching a class this weekend, but we obviously, with a lot of classes have been cancelled, so we've actually postponed that till later in the year. But she's going to come up and join us because she committed to do the demonstration for the group on next Monday. All right, so anyway, so once you've got your floral tape buds completed, we're going to now move on to measure number 6 size ball of paste using the size guide. All right, so you're going to take your color, and so what we're going to do here, we're going to use your number 6. All right, and I'm going to use my number 6 size here. All right, so just to make that, as I said, number 6 size. So just going to go into your hole there, remember about 1/3 below, 2/3 above. Now I'm just showing you 2 of these because I've already got 3 made, okay? And just going to make these, as I said, number 6, okay? Now remember, with I'm working actually in air drying clay today, all right? Now remember, you use the same size for air drying clay as you do for sugar, but remember the difference is going to be when you use the air drying clay, it will shrink slightly, but then also everything will shrink. All of the petals will shrink a little bit. So the air drying clay sweet pea will end up about 8 to 10% smaller than the sugar one. All right. Now, so once you've measured the little balls of paste, all right, so you've got 5 of those, because we're going to be making 5 of these in total. All right. So I've already got some of these made. And and I hope everybody enjoyed the class last week on tools and equipment. And you know, this is where, see, this is a styrofoam block. So when I do a lot of flowers, like say sweet peas or flowers on small wires, I just have a whole styrofoam block covered with cake pop straws or little cocktail straws. And this enables me to be able to just cover that over if you're making lots of hydrangeas. So that's a really good way to, yes, Scott? The Wisteria PDF, if you go to nicholaslodge.com, all right, so just go to my website and then click on recipes and templates, and in there you'll see there's a PDF for the Wisteria, okay? And so and there's lots of other, like I just did the tuberose last week, the tuberose and jasmine is there, and you know, so there's different other handouts there as well, okay? And so then once you've measured your paste off, you're going to just take your, so obviously if you're doing sugar, you're going to take a little bit of vegetable shortening, vegetable fat, and then just work that into your paste. It's not so important, you know, on your air drying clay you don't have to do that, but just give it a little mold. Also remember on your air drying clay, you know, if you do find, or if you never ever watched the first episode ever we did on air drying clay, and there's lots of tips there as well if you haven't seen that, because obviously we have some of you fairly new members. I'm going to take a little tiny bit of glue. All right, now I'm just using my glue in my needle tip applicator or with a brush, a little bit of PVA glue, or obviously you're just going to brush a little bit of egg white onto here with your, if you're doing your sugar one. And you're going to insert the wire into the ball of paste. Just mold this around the bottom. Now especially when you're using glue, you'll sometimes get a little bit squash out. So just use a little bit of corn flour, cornstarch on your fingers just to mold that around, okay? You're going to hold your thumb and finger like this, and then what we're going to do here is we're going to make this into a long cone shape. All right, and this wants to be approximately 20 millimeters or 3/4 of an inch. So you can see here this is about 20 millimeters or about 3/4 of an inch. Okay, all right, so that is how we do the center. Now we're going to use in your instructions here, it's placed on the underside of your finger. All right, so we're using the underside of my finger here like this. And I'm going to use my companion tool, all right, so my companion tool. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just almost like rock like this from the thick end coming down, and you just drag that down to the thin end. So you actually just start off at the bottom here, and just going to drag that down. So you're actually almost like splitting through to the green there, okay? And you just fold that over so you'll get this little beak. Now, when we do sugar, you won't notice this on air drying clay because we sort of stress the clay. You can, if you want to, just take a little bit of water or just use like just a wet washcloth, and you can just literally just rub that with your finger in that area there if you get like a little cracking, all right? Because it's just that what you're doing is you're almost like stretching it, and because the air drying clay, the surface dries fairly quickly. But you see how you're going to get this little beak, all right? And I'll show you this again. And now another little tip I'll share with you when you're doing air drying clay is you can also take just a little bit of vegetable fat, some white fat, some shortening on your companion tool as well. Because also when you then drag that down, you'll find that that will also stop that happening, all right? So you don't sort of like get that little, what it is like it's almost a bit like if you're, those who are familiar with using sugar paste or rolled fondant, when you cover a cake, you get that what we call elephant skin. It's just because the surface starts to dry, and then you're just stretching it so you get that little bit, but just a very, very tiny amount of glue onto here, all right? And your little floral tape bud goes into there. You see, because of the floral tape bud on here, this is, you know, one of the many teaching methods and techniques I've developed over the years, because when I would basically, like as I've said in some of my interviews and things, when I first started making sugar flowers at 10 years old, I got very, very frustrated because in the books I was working from, which were some of the early Australian books, it just said to hook a wire, and a lot of people when they make sweet peas just put a hooked wire into the cone. The problem with that is if you don't leave it long enough, it's going to come off very, very easily. So the technique of using that floral tape bud, when the paste grips around there, it basically enables you to be able to sort of, it stays on very, very easily even if it's not 100% dry. All right, so you're just going to put this onto your finger, but I said you can put just a little bit of vegetable shortening onto here, and you're just going to just drag that down. So you're just going to just drag it down. So you just almost make like a score right from the bottom to the top there, and then you're just going to fold over the top like that. So you're going to get this little spur, you see? All right. But as I said, with the sugar one, it's fine. It's just, as I said, you sometimes with the air drying clay one, you would do that. Now, when you're doing those, all right, so as you do them, if you put them into your foam block or whatever, but when you do them, just sort of do this. So like this is the one I know I did first, and then second, third, fourth, fifth, because when we come to do the next stage, we'll use the driest ones for the flowers, for the paste buds, all right? So just do them in, like put them in a line as you do them, okay? And that's what we call the, so the little beak. You see it looks just like a little beak here, all right? And as I said, when you do, so this is a little bit bigger. When I make the, like my traditional sweet peas, which I have in some of my books, you know, this is a number 5 size. You can see we're using number 6. So this is a little bit bigger because the flower is a little bit larger as well. So some of you members, like Patricia, has been down onto my 5-day masterclass, or my Renshaw Academy masterclass and my 5-day flour class, and some of you have been, others have been to my classes where you've made sweet peas. So this is just a little bit bigger than you would make a traditional sweet pea. But just remember, if you have any questions, you know, just let me know if you have any questions. They're popping up on my iPad here. There we go. And there's a little square on the video. There is a little square in the video, and I can't see what Nick is doing on my screen, okay? Sorry? Okay. Yeah, so we'll be using, obviously, the split screen as well, so. Was anybody else having trouble seeing the split screen? Would you just, because with what I was doing on the split screen? As I say, it's just this software enables us to took a quick look. Wisteria PDF is not around. Okay. All right. Yes, Scott is just going to go and check on that. It should be on there. It may have dropped off because some things we have on the sort of, they're on there for a certain amount of time. But we'll get it. We'll get posted for you. Okay. So anyway, so we're going to make the 5 of your centers, okay? I don't have a poppy mold, is there? Okay, so Janet, so yes, so in your downloadable materials there is, which we talked about last week. This is the template here, all right? And so this template you'll need to print onto card. It'll just print this out and trace it onto cardboard. So what you want to do is just trace that onto a let me just show you this, because some of you may not have watched that the other day, but what you do there is just trace that out. And then I actually have used fun foam, which is like a craft foam. No, okay, we'll get the link put on there. And so then you would cut these out, because we're going to use these in the poppy mold as a converter. All right, so we're actually going to use these as a converter in the poppy mold. We're actually going to be starting off with this one in a little while, you see. But you can also do those on card, like on card stock, and then you can also do this like on the top of like a takeout container, margarine container. Yes, Scott?
Question, I don't have a poppy mold. Is there a cutout?
That's what I'm just talking about. It already popped up. Yeah, so this is what you use, and then if you don't have the poppy mold, all right, so what you can actually do is you can use your rose, all right. So what we can actually do there is you can take your rose, and then with your rose you can use the same technique, and you can just sort of press this on the top. So you press your paste in, and you'll use the back of your vena, okay. And then also I talked about this. That's always why it's a good idea. I know you don't necessarily have to watch it live, but just try and catch up on the little lives in between, because obviously I talk about these sort of things. And then also, as I discussed the other day, if you don't have I'm going to be using the fan vena. So the fan vena comes with the sunflower, okay? So it comes with the sunflower. It's sold separately, but if you have the sunflower, you've already got this, okay? But that's what I'm going to use for the back of the poppy vena, for the back of the sweet peas. If you don't have that, you can use a peony vena if you've got the peony, all right? Or as I said, you can use your rose mat. So, you know, there's always going to be alternatives. I mean, some things are a little bit more easy to adapt things you have. Because as I've said on several occasions, you know, when you're making sugar flowers or air drying clay flowers, sometimes you're not going to have every single thing you need. All right, so we're going to move on to the next step. All right, so you're going to just because you don't necessarily have to do all of these at, at the same time, because you obviously, as long as you do one of each, so that you can make your buds. So we're going to be coming back in a second, and we're going to then be using we're going to come back to this, but we need to let those dry a little bit. But this is where if you had a food dehydrator, if I was doing these in sugar, I would just sort of lay those in the food dehydrator on the shelf, and then obviously that would help to speed up the drying process. And Brian from Florida he was posted a couple of you'd asked questions about food dehydrators, and there's a sort of a thread there on the group page, on the Facebook page, about the food dehydrator. Okay, remember in last week's lesson the one I have is the Excalibur, but really the ones that look a bit like an oven, like a toaster oven, where they're rectangle, square, the taller ones are square, but you just slide the trays in. Those are the best. The round and oval ones are very difficult to use. They're fine for certain things, but not really good for hanging things in. It's difficult to get to the sheets. All right, so we're going to move on now to the next step, which is going to be the leaves. All right, so we're going to, on the leaves, which will be on the page 2, we're going to roll out green paste through the pasta machine on setting number 3 and number 2 for air drying clay. ADC is air drying clay. Okay, so remember, you're going to take your, so with your, just going to get my little plastic flap here. There we go. Now, if you don't have a pasta machine, you're just going to roll this out. So we're just going to take your, just going to roll this out. All right, and I'm just going to put this into my plastic sheet. Remember, with air drying clay, you know, again, if you haven't watched lesson number 1 and you want to know more about air drying clay, definitely watch that. So we're going to use this, it's going to be number 2 on the pasta machine. So I'm just going to go through there with my, okay, now this is the same way as we made the leaves for the citrus. Okay, so when we made the leaves on the video for the citrus, so you've seen this, so we've rolled this out. Okay, and then we're going to cut out with using a 90mm medium flower pro 5-petal rose cutter. Okay, so I'm just going to take this off, and then I'm going to cut out with the cutter. So you're going to make the first cut. You're going to remove the excess paste. Now the remaining paste, we'll be using some of this on Thursday for your calyx. Okay, and then you're going to take the cutter. So remember, you're going to just line the cutter up. This is the middle size cutter, which is the 90mm size. So you just have to sort of do this, look straight ahead. Okay, so this is where like the overhead camera, you see, works well. And then just make your second cut here, like so. All right, and then you can just use your, going to pull away that extra paste here. There we go. All right. You know, and this, of course, gives you a little bit like a sort of, you could use this technique for flowers like, you know, daisies. And remember, if you've watched the sunflower, when we do the sunflower, we use this technique for the sunflower calyx. So now you're going to, then we're going to use in the cutting wheel or the flexi scraper cut to separate. So you can use your little flexi scraper. Okay. So what we're going to do here now, we're just going to cut those. Question? Yep.
Do you put the seam first in the pasta roll, or I get wrinkles in the plastic?
Sorry, what was the question, Scott?
Do you put the seam first?
Yes. Seam goes in first. And remember, you put your paste towards the, so this would go in the pasta machine first, all right? And remember, put your paste towards that end, because when it goes through the pasta machine, it's going to be stretching it, okay? But you're just going to just cut this. All right, so you can use your little flexi scraper, or as I said, you can use, if you have, like, for example, the little, oops, sorry, just knocked something on the floor. There we go. Just going to just cut your little leaves here like this. And remember, and then you can just take your little leaves here. All right, I'm just going to take these out. So you're just going to need, so 7 of these. No, sorry, 5 of these. So you're just going to just take your, so we're going to make 5 leaves here. And just leave that plastic, you know, just in case you mess up, just leave one there like that, okay? Yeah, because the air drying clay, so especially when you're doing the like things like roses and that, put your paste towards the folded end, and then when it goes through the flap, it's going to stretch it. But yeah, if you put it this, because if you put it in the other way, what's going to happen is the plastic slides like that, and that's where you're going to get creases. Okay, so we're going to be doing the leaves, all right, and so we're going to then dip 28 gauge green or white wire into glue and thread into the widest part of that. So we're going to be making the leaves here. Now on your wire for your leaves, okay, you've got on there, you have it has 8 wires, okay? So we're going to be using 5 of the 8 wires, the 28 gauge wires for these 3 wires that are left, we'll be using these for the tendrils, okay? And just remember, using the technique like the magnet, that helps, you know, the magnet will help you keep your wires together, all right? And then just gonna just you know, pinch around the leaves, all right? Now, when we're doing the air drying clay ones, all right, we're gonna take so just gonna push your glue so your glue comes out the top. There we go. All right, so you're just gonna line this up. I'm gonna put this in. Just got a little bit of glue onto here, and you're gonna push this into so about halfway in, just mold around the bottom. All right, and so that will be your leaves there. And you can, you know, you can either put the wires in all of them, or you can, of course, just do them one at a time. It's up to you. I'll just show you a couple of the wires, and I'll show you the next step. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue onto here. Okay, so going to go in about halfway in, mold around the bottom. And remember, with the air drying clay and with sugar, if you need to take a pair of scissors and give it a quick pedicure just to give that sort of an even look, you can do. All right, and then once you get your wires in, we're going to take the multi-leaf veiner. So with the multi-leaf veiner, so remember, we're going to take a little bit of vegetable shortening, some fat on the right hand side, okay, and then so then you're going to rub a little white fat or the easy release on the right hand side. You can also use the easy release. Remember, this is a product I sell for those of you in the US. This is coconut oil and beeswax and lemon oil product. So again, you can use a little bit of this as well. So that's, any of those things can be used, solid coconut oil. And then you're going to take the leaf here. I'm going to place the leaf. So just going to put it towards the top. All right, so you see the wire is in the little recess here. They come across the top. Just going to press, so just press sort of on the edges here, like that, and then your little leaf will come out like this, you see? All right, and then once you've done that, then we're going to then bring left hand side, then you're going to then soften the edge on back and then hollow in front using needle tool and a companion tool. Pinch to a slight taco shape and dry in a crate foam former. Now remember, you can use your finger to do this, so you can actually just work that on your finger. You can do that on the back of here. So this is on the side, it's got like the ray rib, but you can actually do this on there as well. So just going to do that towards the edge. Or if you have the little foam pad. Now foam pads, we do have those on the club shop now. The little mini foam pad, but you can just use that just to roll your edge. Because remember, with your air drying clay, you can't use a balling tool or a stick because it will just stretch it, all right? It will tear it. So you have to use this rolling technique. And then you turn this over, and we're going to use the needle tool end of the companion tool. We're going to pinch it like a taco shape, so you have like a taco shell, just like a V shape. And then you're going to dry that onto some crate foam or convoluted foam, all right? And so this is the crate foam or convoluted foam. But hopefully the lesson last week helped explain quite a lot about and several of you had commented that you found things helped you understand things, and like lots of different little tips there about making the cornstarch puff and things like that. All right, but as I said, on your sugar one, when you're doing your sugar ones, like I've shown a lot of the videos, you can take your balling tool and just soften around the edge, but we can't do that on the air drying clay, which I'm working with, but because the air drying clay will just tear, just because of the, but as I said, you can do this on your finger as well if you don't have the little pad there like so. You're going to just hollow the center, just going to pinch this like this. Now sweet peas, when you make sweet peas, like when in fact I teach these in my 5-day class, the students, we don't make leaves for them, okay? But so sometimes you make flower leaves to go with the sweet peas, sometimes you don't. But I'm doing this with the leaves on them because obviously it just looks nice for a sort of, especially those who work in air drying clay like I am, because if you put this into a vase, it's sort of like a self-contained little arrangement. And you're just going to continue with these, so I should just continue with my, but I said, any questions just while I'm working? Scott's obviously answering some questions and things. But I'll put a link to the PDF for the wisteria, and it was on there, but it was done for Cake Flix. So if you actually go to Cake Flix, they have the wisteria video on there as well. I did put a link of it onto the Flower Pro group as well, so just check that out. But just going to press this on. Remember, these blossom cutter leaves are very, very useful. You know, last week I did an episode on Cake Flix Live TV where I did fabulous foliage. So I showed the fern and the how to make the eucalyptus, and then I also did the these leaves. And again, a lot of people that never sort of obviously not used Flower Pro had never seen this technique before. But you know, so many people have blossom cutters, and you know, plain leaves are great. We use this technique for many, many different leaves.
When are you doing another course in the UK?
Well, I'm going to be coming over to the UK, hopefully if everything is okay, because at the moment, like if I come into the UK, there's a 14-day quarantine, but hopefully that's going to be lifted, you know, maybe next month. But we are planning on doing some courses. We'll be coming over to do some filming, and obviously we have the second birthday of Flower Pro. But as far as courses go, probably not until next year, but we are planning on trying to do some regional workshops. And then, you know, with the plan is also with, we are going to be planning to have some sort of meetups as well. So like Cake International and at some of the American shows as well, we'll be having some Flower Pro meetups. So those of you going to those shows, it's an opportunity just to meet other members. And but as I said, you know, just with still with lockdown and so many restrictions and things, you know, a lot of the cake shows have been obviously cancelled. And you know, hopefully once we get back on track, we will be having some meetups, and as I said, we're going to be doing some classes as well. So then we're going to just put the wire in. So the wire goes into there like so. Just going to mold around. And then just going to pop that onto the veiner. But remember, you don't have to put the oil or grease on there every time, okay? And I haven't had any questions about that from Flower Pro members, which I have not from the club members, but from the general Flower Pro group. Somebody asked about, could you use like oil, like, you know, cooking oil? That would make it too oily, all right? The other thing to remember is when you use the Trex or the Crisco, very, very tiny amount, all right? Because like if you took like a big like that, okay, and you spread it onto the mold, what would happen is that you'd end up with having so much grease on there. And if you take, for example, like a little blob of shortening or vegetable fat and you put it on your table, in 2 weeks time it's still going to be there. It doesn't really dry. So what will happen is if you put too much fat on there, you can have issues when you come to dust the flowers where you get smudging on the leaves. And if that's the case, it means you've used too much of the vegetable fat onto the veiner. It's minimal amount, okay? But you're going to just and like Darren, who's watching, you know, Darren lives in Wales, and you know, remember I've talked a little bit about Crisco. You know, I talked about that in the. But Darren said, you know, he likes how it's nice and creamy. It's more like a butter. It's not as oily. You know, Trex you get in the UK is just, I found, is very, very oily on your fingers. The shortening, the vegetable shortening, the Crisco brand, which you can buy online, but also like some of the larger Tesco superstores and Tesco online have it as well. So that is nice because it's just a little bit more creamy, so it's a little bit easier to use. So this paste you have left, that would just go back into your bag. Okay, so that would just go back into your bag, and then you'll be just going to pop that back in the bag. And we are working on the schedule, you know, for the next couple of months. So we have some exciting you know, demonstrations, some classes, some lives, as I said. So, you know, obviously we officially start the new first part of that next week with as I said, Sydney on Monday and Q&A on Thursday. All right, so remember now, when you finish with this, you would wash this, a little bit of dish soap, washing up liquid, just get a little scrub in your food dehydrator if you have one. It's a great way to dry that. Question? Yes, Scott?
What's the difference between the black and green side of the mini block?
So the little pad here, this is the softer side. So that's the side if you're doing sugar, you would use, if you always remember, soften soft, okay? So when you're softening, you'll work on the soft side of the pad, and then the green side of the pad is a little bit firmer. And so in traditional flour making, and like if you watch my, for example, if you watch the video on like doing the peony, all right, this is what I call my no flip pad. So when I do the peony pedals, you know, what I do there is I use the green side, which is the harder side. We use that for like frilling like this, all right? Then you go onto the soft side and you blend from the outside to the inside. So this is, as I said, what we call the no flip pad. This is more traditional. One side's hard, one side's soft. So the green side is hard, the black side is soft. So generally, when you're doing the softening with a balling tool, you work on the soft side. When you're using a needle tool, it actually doesn't matter which side you use. But when you watch some of my videos, you'll notice how I do certain things in obviously the different ways.
Found the wisteria handout and has posted it to the.
Oh, wonderful! Thank you. That's great. So one of our members has found the wisteria PDF, so posted it onto the Flour Pro group. Okay. But if you have any questions about that, and as I said, if you go back to Cake Flicks, I did share the video as well, but it's just some of those videos drop off. So, but you would have to look back several weeks ago because it was actually, it was right, I came back from the UK on March the 22nd. So I think it was like very beginning of April. I did that for Cake Flicks. But as I said, there is a video on making the wisteria, but you all are, you know, understand how things, so you should be able to have no trouble working from the handouts.
No flip pad in stock. No, it is not.
Yeah, the no flip pad, we're waiting for some more stock of those to come in. As I said, there are a few items where we're waiting to come in. You know, we do have, some of you were asking about organizing a little, this is a little tool caddy, a mini tool caddy that I had designed, and Donald, who's one of our members, he actually 3D printed these for us, and this is actually made for the companion tool. All right, so it's perfect because the companion tool has a habit of getting lost. All right, so these work really well, and of course you can use this for your little tools. You can use it for, you know, all different paint brushes, things like that as well. So that's a useful little. So we do have those now in stock. So that's that will be the leaves, all right. So we're going to do the five leaves to the sweet pea, all right, and they're just going to dry, and then I'm going to be showing you the how to do the open buds, all right, and then we're going to then move on to the two flowers, and then that will be lesson today finished. And then obviously, so if you want to after the class, you know, if you're not making them at the same time, just get those done by Thursday, and then you can have obviously you'll have a little bit of time to between now and Thursday to be able to make the sweet peas, and then you can go along with that. So Susan says she loves hers, and can you buy just the companion tool? Mine is already lost. Yes, Rhoda, we do have those. So we do sell those on the US website. All right. So we have them like this. We sell it with a little, also with a little mini pad, but we do sell those separately. Yep. Remember, the companion tool comes with the ultimate filler flowers, but we do sell those separately as well. Okay. Yeah, it's always a good idea to have a couple of those because they do easily get lost. Sometimes they get like under your board and things like that. So that's the leaves, all right, and so now we're going to move on to the buds. Now we're going to once we move on to the buds, we're going to do the open buds. So we're going to be using number 6 small ball of paste, all right. So I'm going to just go ahead and just measure these off first. So this is going to be number 6 small. Now, I said in traditional sweet pea making, this would be done with an FMM cutter. All right, this is the second size up from smallest in the FMM cutter. When you actually read the wisteria, I use this size and then the smallest size in the rose petal set for the wisteria. So we're going to take a number 6 small. So that wants to just go through the hole. All right. So we just need to measure 2 of those. All right. So you're going to measure 2 of those. Just remember, keep those underneath a little pot here. All right. Now this is where we're going to use the converter, and so we're going to take the converter and we're going to use that in the mold. So we're going to use the smallest size of the poppy. Now if you don't have a poppy, you could do this in the peony, all right? So you can just place this into your peony, or you can also do this on the rose petals. So, but if you don't have a poppy and you've got a peony, just do this in the peony because it's going to have a nicer vena. And you're just going to pop that into there, all right? So just try each way round, and it should just sort of fit into there, but it's just going to give you a, almost like a rose petal shape. But I've made this a little bit more natural looking, okay? And then you're going to put a little bit of vegetable fat in there first. Just pop your little converter in there. Now the reason why, just in case anybody's wondering, well, could you use a pattern? The thing is with a pattern, if you put a pattern on top, it's going to squash the design. So using this converter concept is a way of converting it into a different shape, all right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to then take the, so you're going to put this in, place it into the cavity, measure a number 6 small ball of paste, flatten, press into the cavity using cosmetic sponge, remove the converter, press the Flower Pro fan veinner on the back, all right? So you're just going to flatten this down. So we're just going to place this into here, and then you're just going to press your, all right, so you're just going to press this in like this. So you see how this is going to sort of fill up in the pink. You're going to take your converter off, and then you're going to take your back veinner, just position this on the top, just going to press this on the top. So what that's going to do is going to just sort of thin, and you see how it's going to give you this nice, it's going to thin it out on the edge and give you this nice natural look, okay? I'm going to take this out, okay, so you're going to get this nice look to the petal. And so again, we're going to take then the little, so I'm just going to take my little mini pad. Now again, if you're doing this with a ball, if you're doing this on a sugar one, you can use your balling tool, all right, so you can just ball around here. If you're doing this onto there, you're just going to roll, so we're just going to go back and forward like this. Now remember, the air drying clay is very soft, so when you push that in, you're going to get this nice sort of shape. You're going to get this nice natural edge. So you do this on one side, so you're just softening around approximately 3/4 of the way around, leaving the pointed end unfrilled. So where the pointed part, which is here, that's just left as is. Turn over onto cosmetic sponge and apply a little glue all the way around the base of the bud. So you're just going to take your cosmetic sponge. So we're going to want the side you soften, because naturally you're going to erase the veining a little bit. You turn this over. Now remember, I'm going to be showing you this a couple of times. So you turn this over now onto your cosmetic sponge. This is the one I did first. Okay, so what we're going to do now is going to put a little bit of glue all the way around the bottom. So if you're doing glue, just a little tiny bit of glue, a little bit of egg white just around the very bottom. And then you're going to do, and halfway down the underneath of the spur. So not the side that's got the line on it, but on the spur of this part here, you're just going to do a little line of glue or egg white just about halfway down that little spur, okay? So this is on the back of the spur. I'll be showing you this twice, so you'll be able to watch this. And then what you do there is bring your point to the end of the cosmetic sponge, and you're just going to attach that, and you're just going to wrap the bottom of the point around the center, and you're going to pinch this like a taco. So what you actually do there is you physically pinch it like a taco shell. So you make a little pinch there. Just going to open this out like that. If you need to, just trim if there's any little imperfections on there, you can just sort of trim that off. So you see it actually just wraps around here, right at the bottom, just wraps around, and that will give you your, as I said, your sweet pea. So you see this is going to be the sweet pea. These will be the little, so you see this is sort of how they will look. And of course this is going to shrink. You can see it's a little tiny bit smaller once it dries, okay? And then I'm going to show you that one more time. So remember, just pop the little converter in. Just going to take your little ball of paste here. So this is just a way I came up with of being able to use your pre-existing molds, and in coming projects we'll be using this concept as well. But the fun foam, fun foam you buy in the craft stores, so it's something you can find online. I mean, those who live here in the US, it's something you'll find in Michael's, Walmart, any of those stores. Doesn't matter what color it is. Even like some of the dollar stores and pound stores have it. But as I said, but fun foam is good to use. All right, and but it works well. You're just going to leave that in the mold, and then you're just going to take your back veiner. Just going to line this up. But so this could be done in the peony as well. Okay, just going to press this on like that. Just going to take it, and then remember. So I'm just going to go around the edge here. So I'm just going to use the shaft of my stick here, like this. Come around. Then we're just going to turn this over onto your cosmetic sponge. You're going to take your little bit of glue here. So just a little bit of glue, just goes around the bottom. And then just a little bit of glue, about just a little line of glue, just about halfway up the back of the spur. So it's not where the line is, it's on the back part of the spur. It's also like in the UK, you have a lot of like laburnum trees. So laburnum, that's all related to the, that pea family as well. Now remember, when you put this in, you're going to come in just a little tiny bit with your wire. Just press this on, and then the little point of the rose petal is going to be wrapped around. And then you're just going to pinch it like a taco shape. All right, and then you're just going to just open that up, and that will give you your sweet pea. But it just gives a very nice natural look with using the Flower Pro rather than, as I said, using a cutter. A little bit more natural looking, and plus the veining works beautiful. And as I said, the peony will also work for that as well. All right, so those will be your two, as I said, your two. What we call in the open buds. All right, so these are your two open buds. Okay, so you're going to make two of those. Now one of the buds we made, all right, which is going to be, that's going to be left just like that. All right, and that will actually be the, show you here, see, that will be the little bud at the top there. So so one of them will be left like that. Then we're going to make two with the almost like the little rose petal on, and then we're going to make two that are going to be the actual flowers. So this is a little bit different than a flower like a rose, where we start off with a cone and then you build onto it, because those are now finished. All right, they would just have a calyx on them. And when we do the flowers, we actually are going to be working on two more of your cones. All right, so these are going to be what we're going to work on, the flowers. Now, those of you doing sugar ones, when you do the flower, all right, so when you do the flower, and I'm going to show it that way anyway, but you're going to make like the one that's going to be like almost like a butterfly wings, and then you'll do the second one the same, and then you'll do the outer petal and then the outer petal, because with sugar ones it gives the time a little bit of time to dry. With air drying clay you could do first, second stage, because you don't have to worry so much about petals flopping back. And as you can see here, just bringing in the traditional sweet pea just to sort of explain to you the shape. You see, this is a traditional sweet pea cutter. So this one looks like a pair of lungs, all right, or almost a bit like butterfly wings. But normally when I teach this, I relate to this looking like a shape of a pair of lungs, all right? And then the outside petal, I talk about looking a bit like a motorcycle helmet or Pac-Man, okay? And but as I said, that's like a traditional sweet pea cutter. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to use the little small converter there. So you see how that's going to then change that into that almost like butterfly wings. And then when we do the outside bigger petal, we're going to do very similar technique to what we've just done, is we'll be using this one here. All right? And remember, just keep these in a little bag and then just mark them, sweet peas. So, sweet peas are on the list. I mean, obviously, a lot of you have been, asking for, are you going to be doing this in Flower Pro? And of course, Flower Pro, it's a long process. Like the ultimate filler flower took us about 9 months, just a bit like having a baby it was. I mean, it was probably just as traumatic in respect of how many times we had to keep testing it because of the depth. It's a very complex mold. But having like obviously lots of different molds, we've got lots of different things planned. We have some super exciting molds coming out in a few weeks' time, which will be obviously the first people to hear about and see those. So I'm working on molds constantly. So we do have a lot of things on the list, and so we do take every consideration. But also because of the time and also cost of development, there are some things that you know, we probably won't do as Flower Pro because there's, like everybody uses, just cutters or whatever, and so some things are a little bit more sort of difficult to do, but also it's the whole process of the development and the cost and development part of that. So but we do have some plans for, as I said, you know, down the line. We had talked about a Sweet Pea. But as I said, I'm showing you really how you can just use your existing products, which makes it a benefit because you invest in the poppy and then you can do lots of different other flowers with that. Now, when we do the flowers, all right, you repeat the process, but use the small wedge shape converter. All right, so we're going to be using the small wedge shape converter. There we go. I don't have the poppy mold yet. Can you show how to make the petals using the other mold? So if you're using the peony, let me just get the peony, Susan. Susan, do you have the peony? Have you got the peony, Susan? Because I said with the peony, that would be exactly the same. So you could easily just use you can use your little converter here, like that can go just into here. Because all you're going to do is you're just going to push the paste into there. You see, just coming into this far here. So you can use the peony and then the back on here as well. So. But as a peony would be second option, and then the other option is if you don't have the peony, you could use your rose petal. All right, so again, you can just use your rose petal like this, and again, you can just put that in and press it in, and then do the second side veining, and that will vein the other part of it. All right?
Yes, she has.
She has the peony? Yeah, okay, yeah, so if you've got the peony, just use that, Susan, okay? That will be great. You know, I mean, we also don't want to put anybody under pressure thinking you have to buy all of these things at one time, because I realize some of you have just started with Flower Pro, so it's something you invest in, you know, and so as you make flowers and hopefully sell flowers for a wedding cake, then you can invest in more. But it's just trying to show you different things you do with them. Some of you have been with Flower Pro since day one, so you have everything up to what we've manufactured so far. Now, when we do the flowers, we're going to take number 6 small size ball of paste. So we're going to use number 6 small again. All right, so we're going to do number 6 small here, because these are just going to be in the small. All right, and then what you're going to do here, you're going to take this, going to roll it into a 20 millimeter 3/4 inch long sausage, okay? So just going to roll that into a sausage like this. So this wants to be about 20 millimeters, about 3/4 of an inch, okay? So it's going to be about 3/4 inch long sausage. And then what I do here is I fold it like a V shape and then just pinch it and pinch it there. And that's going to give you the basic shape. Now I'm going to put a little bit of shortening into there. All right, I'm just going to press this in. And again, you're just going to use the converter. All right, so you're just going to just press this in like this. Because here, you see, so you're just going to just press this in like that. Now this is going to make the petals a little bit thinner. All right, so you see how you're going to press this in like this. Going to take this out. Okay, and then you're going to take your back veiner. So remember, you don't have to put too much pressure on here with your when you're using the air drying clay. All right, so this is going to give you the, so when you peel this out, so remember, just peel this out. So you see how you're going to get this like almost like butterfly wing shape, okay? All right, and then you're just going to go around here with your, just going to frill around. So just using your, remember your companion tool you're going to use on its side at an angle here. I'm just going to just frill around. Again, you're going to come down to, you're going to leave where the point is. But remember, you can do, when you're doing the air drying clay, you can do this on the green side or on the soft side. Remember, you can also, some of you have the little, We're still waiting for these to arrive in the UK, but some of you already have these from the US, but you can use this as well. All right, so you're just going to frill around here. Now then, with this one, okay, with this one, we're then going to, so then we're going to turn over on, so you're going to turn over and place on cosmetic sponge using the needle tool end of the companion tool, make a line down the center of the two wings. All right, so you're going to take your little companion, your piece of foam here. Sorry, just looking for just lost my little cosmetic sponge. There we go. So turn this over. Because remember, whatever side you soften, that's going to end up being the back. So then with the needle tool end, you're just going to make a little line. So you're just going to almost gently, not too much pressure, just gently go down to almost make a sort of a crease down the middle here. So it almost looks like a heart, but it doesn't have its sort of point end on the part on there. And then you're going to use exactly the same technique with your glue. So with your glue, you're going to put a little bit of glue just around the bottom, about halfway down the back here. All right, and then when you put this on, it then says you attach to one of the buds as you did for the open bud. Pinch and close. When pinch and close, then open up. All right, like wings, and repeat with the second bud. So what we do here is you want the little spike just to be over, just again, so it goes almost like in between the little wings there. Just push this in gently in the cosmetic sponge. You're going to wrap this around. And then what you can do here is you can close this up, so you can sort of almost like close it up where the glue is, and then you can just open this out back like this and back like this. But you see how you'll have these beautiful wing petals on your sweet pea here. So you can almost like close this off, and then you can just sort of open them out like that and just mold that around. Now on your sugar one, all right, you can just hang that upside down just to dry for a couple of minutes. All right, so as you make each one, I'll show you that again. So remember, you're just going to just take your paste here, and then you're just going to take your little ball of paste. So remember, 6 small, because this makes it nice and thin. So remember, we're just going to make this into a sausage. All right, so it wants to be about 20 millimeters long. Just going to fold it, squash it. All right. I'm just going to pop that in, and use your cosmetic sponge. Just going to pop that in to get this onto the edge. Okay. You want these to be nice and thin, these petals. All right, and then you're going to take that converter out, and just going to take press this on like this. Remember, having the vegetable shortening on there makes it easy to remove. And then just going to use your. But again, remember, you can do this on any of the silicone. You can do this on the little silicone fan veiner. But just going to go around like that, you see? All right. And then you're going to turn this over onto your cosmetic sponge. And with your needle tool, just going to go down the center. Little bit of glue. A little bit of glue down the back here. Okay. And then going to make, so your little beak will actually just go almost like in the middle of the heart there, like so. Just going to mold this around. You're just going to almost like just squash it up, okay? And then you can just open these up like little wings. Now with your sweet peas, you can have one more closed up as you're making 2. You can do one a little bit more closed up. Then plus also with the air drying clay, we talked about this with the sugar one. Sometimes it will fuse a little bit, so if you need to just trim that, you can do with but you'll get these little wings on here like so. Just make sure the point is molded around the beak there like that. Okay. All right, and that's going to be your those will be your two wing petals. And then the last part we're going to deal with is going to be the actual sweet pea itself, so the main petal. So we're going to be using again the converter. There we go. So just going to put the converter into the mold there like so, and so this gives you the outside petal here. And then we move on to the outside petal. That's going to be a number 7 small. Okay, so you're going to use a number 7 small. Now in calculating the paste, I've given you more than you need. So like, you know, if you wanted to make like 3 or 4 flowers, you can do some extra ones. You'll have extra paste there. But just as I said, going to use a number 7. The number 7 small. Now also when you, what I would suggest you do with your, just pop these here. So in preparation for Thursday, I would just literally just roll out a little bit of your paste like this. All right. And then what you can do is when you, before you actually start dusting your flowers on Thursday, you can try out the color on this little sample piece of paste. All right. Now I'm going to use, these are 2 of my Nicholas Lodge dusting powders. I'm going to be using a Cosmos color, which is this sort of pale pinky color I use on cherry blossoms and things, and prairie green. But remember, if your green is stronger, if your pink is stronger or your green is stronger, you're using a pastel pink or green. You just use obviously cornstarch added to that to make it paler. But what it means is rather than messing up your flowers, you can try a little bit of your colors to see, and if you especially are going to add cornflower to it, you can see if it's going to be subtle enough. All right, so you can just almost keep that just to dry. So that technique I use a lot, you know, because I explained in one of my other classes, a bit like someone's trying out a wall color on a small obviously area of wall, just to see whether you like the color. So it's a lot of a good idea. A little tip there: when you make sugar flowers, always have an extra petal. You can just try the coloring out and see how the color looks. Because also when you look at a color in a pot as opposed to putting it on a paste, it's going to look very different. And especially, of course, if you're putting it onto white as putting it onto color, is going to vary a lot as well. Now when we do the last part of this, we're going to put the little bit of vegetable shortening onto here. Okay, and we're going to put and then here. So we're going to move on to the outside petal using the medium cavity, take number 7, small ball of paste, and then flatten and continue with the open bud and wing petal. So we're just going to flatten this out. But this is actually a really nice size sweet pea. I've always sort of found that the sweet pea cutter is almost a little bit small, personally. What I do like about using this concept of the converter, you'll find your flower looks, generally speaking, a little bit more natural. You know, in general, that's the nice thing about the Flower Pro. So just sort of put that on like that. Okay. Then you're just going to take it. Remember, you need to just remove the converter, but because of the vegetable fat into there, that would just stay in place. And then just going to just take your back veiner and prop that on. Okay, and we're going to take this out of the, going to remove this from here. Okay. And again, you can use the, you know, see how you can do this nice ruffle onto here. See, when you ruffle, you see how you lift and you ruffle, but you almost want to hold it at an angle. Okay, now on this one, it's a little bit different. So once filled, place on cosmetic sponge and mark line down the center. Use needle tool or the companion tool. So you don't turn this over. On this one, the side you ruffle, it doesn't say turn it over. So you just, the side you ruffle, you put it on the cosmetic sponge, and then with your, so what you're going to do there is you're just going to just gently go down, just very lightly. You're going to make a line down the back, all right? So you're just going to make a little line down the back of this. And then when you turn this over, what it means is this is going to be like a reverse taco, see? So you do a line, I'm going to show this again. You're going to do a line down the back and then you turn this over, all right? Now this is going to go on to these ones here. So we're going to put a little bit of glue So you're going to then, so once you bend wire right, then you're going to just put a little bit of glue. So you're just going to put a little bit more glue just around the very bottom here. And again, you're going to just go down the line about halfway down. So you're going to go down the back of that first stage petal. So having it on the cosmetic sponge helps. And then you're just going to put this on. All right, so you're just going to put this on. You're going to mold around the bottom. And then you're going to do like a reverse taco. So you actually, where the crease is, which is there, you pinch that so it actually comes back like this. Now, the older the sweet pea is, the more detached this is from the wing-shaped petals, all right? But, you know, usually a bride's not going to carry dead sweet peas in a bridal bouquet. So you just want to just have that. But you're just going to get this nice natural shape. And then all they do is just bend your wire a little bit forward. Now, with a sugar one, you're generally just going to hang it upside down for a few minutes, and then you're just going to reshape that. Now, even with your air drying clay ones, you know, it's not going to come off, but you just remember you're going to just sort of pinch it, and as it sort of if it opens up too much, just almost squash it a little bit on there. Just as it starts to dry, it will form its shape, okay? This will be your, and then just show you that one more time, and then that will be it for today. And then, as I said, on Thursday when we so I'll come on just a couple of minutes before we start, all right? And as I said, on Thursday we're going to move on to the calyx. So the calyx is going to be done with the ultimate filler flower mold. We're actually going to use the small jasmine plumeria cavity on there. And then we're going to be using, we'll be using the tendrils and obviously doing the tape in, coloring and finishing off. Okay, so we're just going to pop that here. Just going to now just press this in. Just remember, when you finish, you're always going to use your wash your molds, all right? Now the poppy has got fairly heavy veining, so you're going to get some areas where it's going to be a little bit thinner, and that's fine because you want that nice natural look on the flower. Okay, I'm going to pop that in. You're going to take your converter off. Okay, and then we're going to take your back veiner. So I'm excited to see all the colors of your sweet peas, all right? So remember, you can, you know, if you wanted to do the two-tone color, so that means like, you know, you could, for example, mix two totally different colors like yellow and orange or lavender and purple, or you can do all of your little centers and your first stage petals, and then you can lighten the paste or darken it, and then make your outer petals that color. But it's a nice flower there. But remember, just if you do have any little areas, now, you know, on your air drying clay as well, if you do have an area where you press a little bit hard, just literally just press that with your fingers, and you can just, as I just trim that as needed. Okay, so just use your scissors as needed here. But remember remember, this is going to be the back of the petal, so we're just going to use your companion tool. I've just got so used now to using my companion tool, I sort of just prefer this technique for ruffling even sugar ones. You know, it's what you get used to, but it's sort of such a great little tool. But as I said, easy to lose, okay? All right, so then once you get to this stage, remember, this is the back of the petal, the side you soften. So then you're just going to just gently go down the middle, but not too much pressure, okay? You can also even just use the shaft, but just gently, as I said, just to give you like almost like a crease there. You turn it over, okay? And then you're going to take your glue. Now on sugar ones, you could also do this part, let it dry a little bit, you know, an hour or so, and then do the next part. But usually when I teach this, we just go straight through. Remember, put a little bit of glue up that to where the inside of like the little butterfly wings is. All right, and then you're just going to attach that. Just going to press it in the middle. Going to mold that around. But this is how a lot of people do sweet peas, and it's not really realistic enough. But you need to, now just what you do is you pinch it, and you see how you pinch it like this, and then where your crease is, you're going to have that sort of, so your lateral vein, which is your central vein, is now on the back there, like so. And then you see how you're going to pinch this, but this is going to give you the shape of your flower, okay? And so these will be your sweet peas, and then just you know, once you've got them in your former like this, you can just let those just dry for a few minutes, all right? And then you can just check the shape of them. Now on a sugar one, just hang it upside down, probably 5 minutes or so. It's going to depend on, you know, like temperature, rainfall, how humid it is in your kitchen or your workroom. But you're just going to just pinch that like that, and that will give you the shape of your sweet peas, all right? And but see, your air drying clay one will just sort of start to dry there like so. But remember, just have a little bit of extra paste, all right? So just while you're rolling out, have a little bit of extra paste so you can try out your coloring on Thursday. And then just make sure, now you can use all of your color, all right? We need a little bit of this for the calyxes, but as I said, you can use all of your colors. So if you want to make another couple of extra sweet peas, you can do, because you could do them in a couple of different colors as well. Make some in pale pink and some in a darker pink. And that will be your, and remember, so on Thursday, we'll just need the little calyx, the filler flower mold for the calyx, all right, the ultimate filler flower mold. So I'll be using that for the calyx, and then we'll be using the, obviously everything else is really just the dusting powders and things like that. So does anybody have any questions before I let you loose? And but to have fun, but I know some of you obviously, you know, maybe you're going to make those, some of you made them along with me, or some of you are going to maybe make them this evening or tomorrow, so you can do that. But as I said, just post any questions after this video. Just post any questions, anything you don't understand, or as I said, anything that doesn't make sense to you, or if you have any questions about it. I said, it's like Susan was asking, if you don't have the poppy. So if you have the peony, I would probably suggest use the peony, because that will give you nicer veining, heavier veining. But if you don't have that, use the ultimate petal veiner, and have fun. And obviously we will, as I said, see you on Thursday. And so stay safe, everybody. Have fun making your sweet peas, and I'll see you real soon. So sweet wishes. Bye.